As discussed in our previous episode, dedicated to Gigaleak, Nintendo suffered a major leak of development information between the years of 2020 and 2021. The leak was carried out by a British hacker by the name of Misc Clark. In this video, we'll go through a ton of leaked Super Mario World sprites, content from Mario Kart, Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 2, and Super Mario 64. Let's begin. Here are some Mario sprites prototyped during the development of Super Mario World. They appear to be based on Mario from Super Mario Bros. 3. Mario 3, if you didn't know, was first ported to the Super Nintendo to inform the development of Super Mario World. Here's a set of Luigi sprites that match. I should mention that while most of this episode is based on information from Gigaleak, a few non-Gigaleak prototype elements likely found their way into this episode too. If you spot one, mention it in the comments and think of it as a nice bonus. This sprite looks a lot like the last one, but shaded in a way to give it more depth. These sprites feel reminiscent of how Sonic the Hedgehog sprites are shaded in his 16-bit outings. Here's a matching sprite for the Koopaling Larry, and a Koopa Troopa too. Here's a large buzzy beetle that never appeared in Super Mario World. It's in that same 3D style. Here are some more variations on Mario's sprite, looking more like the final Super Mario World sprite, but not quite. Here's the same sprite, but with a raccoon tail, left over from Mario 3. At some point during development, Nintendo toyed with the idea of a winged Mario. Ultimately, they settled on the cape, minus the helmet you see here. Yoshi went through several design phases during the development of Mario World. Here are a couple variations that have a full sprite set. Twitter user Feline Kai was awesome enough to put together this video, outlining the evolution of Yoshi's design. Here's more of Proto Yoshi's animations. Here's a flying animation and a fire-breathing animation. Thankfully, we didn't end up getting this version of Yoshi. It's pretty ugly. Here's a prototype Bullet Bill. This version actually has been seen before. It's been shown in some pre-release screenshots of the game, given out to magazines. Here's another version of Bullet Bill that was found. Here we can see the Goomba from Super Mario Bros. 3 evolve into the Goomba from Super Mario World. They would still be called Goombas in Mario World, but later games would retcon them and they would become known as Galoombas. This differentiated them from the mushroom variants. Here's another version of Koopa Troopa that didn't make it into the final game. It's unclear if these were intended to replace the existing Koopa Troopas or if they would have been a whole new enemy in the game. Here's a Dry Bones version of the Koopa Troopa. The shading is reminiscent of the prototype Mario sprite from before, so perhaps this was made to match. Next, a different version of Larry, and a version of King Koopa showing off some leg, something you never see in the final game. This flying bird looks like it belongs in a Dr. Seuss book, but it's actually another unused enemy, or NPC, from Mario World. This is one of the earliest looks we have at the Super Mario World overworld. At the time, it looked much closer to the maps from Super Mario Bros. 3, lacking the organic feel of the overworld and paths from the final game. Here's another version of the overworld. This one lacks any definite paths, but appears to be closer to what we'd see in the final game. The colors seem to be incorrect in this one, but you can finally make out the pathing, similar to how it would appear in the final game. Here's another version of the map, but you can actually make out the level stops now. This prototype title screen for Super Mario World has the subtitle Super Mario Bros. 4, just like the Japanese box art. One rather unique find for Mario World from Gigaleak is the file names for the sound samples used in Mario World's soundtrack. With this information, fans have taken it upon themselves to recreate Super Mario World's soundtrack using these high-quality samples, so you can get an idea of what Mario World sounded like before it was compressed to fit in a Super Nintendo cart. The Super Mario World Restored project was started and is headed by a YouTube channel called Church of Kondo. You can listen to the entire soundtrack there, on Church of Kondo's YouTube page. A tweet by Forest of Illusion mentions one really sad reality. That is that most of the development resources that were backed up during Mario World's development were lost due to age, unreadable and unretrievable. Thinking of the vast amount of Mario World development data that was lost is rather depressing. I probably could have even made a few more videos on this. Prototype art for Super Mario All-Stars was found during Gigaleak. Apparently it was going to have a different art style, as shown by these sprites. It was also called Super Mario Collection before the final name was chosen. Here you can see this work in progress title screen with the old name. Let's start looking at Yoshi's Island. Previously we covered Super Donkey, a Yoshi's Island prototype, in another episode of Game Facts Special. You'll find that recommended at the end of this video. As most of you will know, Donkey Kong Country was in development at the same time as Yoshi's Island. It's thought that Donkey Kong Country inspired the Yoshi's Island team to try their hand at computer-generated pre-rendered graphics. The game was too far along to take on the new graphical style, but these sprites remain from their efforts. The baby wizard you see now, and the previous renders, were considered for the role of protagonist in the game before Mario was decided on. Yoshi's Island sequel, Yoshi's Story, would later use similar pre-rendered graphics. Several prototype title screens were found during the leak. Here's a few of them. A playable Yoshi's Island prototype was also found during Gigaleak. We'll highlight a bunch of the differences between the prototype and the final game here. The title screen has various changes, including the subtitle Super Mario Bros. 5. The world map is different. The HUD is different. You can lock onto enemies with eggs. The clock for Baby Mario doesn't automatically restore time. Instead, you pick up clock power-ups, which add to the amount of time you can be without Baby Mario. In the prototype, Yoshi picks up eggs rather than swallowing enemies to create them. Let's move on from Yoshi's Island. At one point during development of Star Fox 2, Mario may have been intended to replace Slippy Toad, or maybe it was intended as a hidden Easter egg. Check out these sprites. This 3D Yoshi sprite was found in the format used by Argonaut Games. Perhaps it was for the rumored early 3D Yoshi prototype Argonaut claims to have inspired Mario 64, before evolving into Croc for the Saturn and PlayStation. These jumpsuit guys were used in Mario Kart prototypes, before it was decided that the Mario cast would be the playable characters. Here are some renders of some used and unused items from Mario Kart 64. Nintendo has spoken multiple times about a town map that was cancelled from Mario Kart 64. Now we finally get a proper look at it. Check out Micro500's YouTube channel for the full video. Finally, let's take a look at a few lost development resources for Super Mario 64. This Balrog was probably intended for levels, like Lethal Lava Land. Here's another unused enemy. Perhaps it went unused because it looks rather silly. Several Mario 64 prototype levels were found during Gigaleak. They were reintroduced into the final game by hackers. We'll look at the 3 most substantial levels here. Here's the first prototype level. Here's the second prototype level. Finally, here's the last prototype level we'll look at. Based on Mario 64's copyright date, it took 162 days to develop Mario 64. A Luigi model was found for the game. By now, many hackers have added him to a plethora of ROM hacks. But for now, we'll show him doing the dab by Twitter user Little Paladin 1. A number of high-quality renders were found for promotional art used with Mario 64. Here's the front and back of the box art. Thanks to everyone who contributed to these discoveries found during Gigaleak. Join us in the Bound to Game Dev Discord. There we talk about video games, Game Facts Special, and my 2 games, Sonic Time Twisted and No More Robots. I've also started a Patreon. Right now it mostly just contains development logs for No More Robots, but I'll be adding exclusive episodes in the future. Thanks for watching. This has been a Game Facts Special.